Welcome to being Sharon Gibson's podcast, PSG.
Hello, BSG fighters. Welcome to being Sharon Gibson's podcast. This is season 6, episode 2, featuring Leah Witham, a freelance content writer, a copywriter, and a copy editor. As intended, I'm going to transform your mind into a strong and positive mind. Before I dive into today's topic, I'd like all of you to know that my TikTok community and podcast community are different from each other. So check out the videos on my TikTok platform and YouTube platform as well. Welcome, Leah. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sharon. I'm doing well.
You're welcome. Can you tell us more about yourself?
You said a lot there. I've had 25 years in computers. I've had 11 years in tutoring. I had high grades in high school and college.
That's beautiful. What subjects in particular, or you were like an all-round good student?
I had a 4.0 in high school and college. I had to. It was kind of a parental pressure.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't my idea.
Okay, that's good.
But I have a BS in human resources and a minor in psychology.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, that's good. It's good you did psychology so you would understand more about the human brain and everything.
Yes.
That's
I needed
perfect.
it.
And today's topic is titled Healing from Traumas and Attachment. But as usual, before we dive into the topic of discussion, I will be discussing some top rules for success by a highly successful and influential person. And today's person is Steve Jobs. He said, "Don't live a limited life." And number 2, don't do it for money. I mean, he's dead now. May he so rest in peace. But these were some of the top rules that he put out to the world. So now let's dive into our topic of discussion, healing from traumas and attachment. First question to you is, a lot of people talk about traumas these days and how it affects their life. How does one recognize a trauma?
Trauma usually starts at birth. It depends a great deal on the nurturing you receive, specifically how you're touched. Both male and female babies are pretty sensitive to that. And if their mother is not receptive, some mothers would rather be taken care of than take care of someone. And that really presents a big problem for the newborn. If the mother is not nurturing, it can change the brain of the newborn. I didn't have a mothering mother, and it's affected my life pretty drastically. But I'm here and I'm still kicking.
Yeah, you are.
There is ways around it.
And what are the importance of healing from it?
Well, in my case, my psyche shut down and I don't remember anything before age 9.
Wow.
So all the shrinks didn't want me to remember anything because that's a pretty bad sign. I didn't have to go inside and try to recall anything because I didn't have any memory. So, but that's really the first step for someone who remembers what happened. You kind of have to make friends with it. You have to get used to signs and sounds kind of cropping up when you don't want them to.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by everything you're saying. Like it shows how complex the human brain is.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
I could talk for hours.
I know you can.
Anyway, I consider it God's grace that I don't remember.
Yes.
So I was in a way protected from some of it, but I still have, the scars. So if your parents don't want you, it's hard to convince yourself that you'll be accepted by other people too.
By other people. It's good that you said that because I'm curious to know how your attachment to others is like.
Yeah. Well, I have what they call social anxiety, which means I get nervous if I don't know people and I'm going into a crowd or something because I fear being rejected. As I was, my mother would go into rages. And after my memory started, she would scream at me about being a colicky baby. And she said, "I just had to put you in a crib and shut the door."
Oh my gosh.
So I gather that's what happened for a year or so because I can feel like that when I'm facing people I don't know. But it gets easier because people are usually friendly. And I've had good friendships most of my life that I can recall.
Yeah.
So it's workable.
It's very touching. I'm a little teary because I cannot imagine how that will feel, especially from somebody you're supposed to have, your first relationship with and build a bond with and actually
Yeah.
confide
Yeah.
in. It's very I don't know, it's painful to hear
Yeah.
it. It's very painful, and I do feel what you feel, to be honest, because I'm an empath. I'm trying to
Oh,
control that
that
because
is
I can feel what you're feeling right
that's
now.
hard.
But let's just take a break from this. Let's go to the comforts break question. What day in your life would you like to relive?
Wow. My parents were both from the same town in Ohio, and that's where all my relatives live. We would visit at Easter and then in the summer and at Christmas. And one summer we would visit my mother's sister
Okay.
and her family. They had 4 kids, we had 3. And we all went next door to the grandparents and we climbed up the corn silo and jumped in the silo and spent hours like a sliding board, just
Yeah.
flying down through the corn all the way to the ground. And we did that over and over again. It was just so much fun. It was like a giant slide.
Yeah.
Not too many times I can remember having fun, but that one was one of them. That would be fun to do again.
Do you mind if I ask you how old you are?
How old?
Yeah, because you said you'd like to do that again. So I'm just wondering how old you are.
Well, I'm way too old to do that again right now. I would have to go backwards for quite a bit and then do it.
That's true. That's true. So okay. Now that was a lovely moment. I guess it was. Back to our questions. Has it ever been a problem detaching from people who affect your life negatively?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's
Yeah.
all I knew. So it felt
Mhm.
like home.
Mm. Mm.
I was comfortable because I was accustomed to being treated terribly. So I got some real losers.
Mm.
They were dangerous. And talk about trying to get away from them. You want to hear some horror stories.
Mm.
But one husband, I decided that, it was done. Packed up my girls,
Yes.
got in the car, and left at night.
Oh.
And he followed me
Oh wow.
and pushed me off the road,
Oh my God.
got out of his car, threw my hood open, and started pulling hoses out of my engine. And I couldn't see anything except the hood up. But I took off with my girls in the back seat on a 6-lane highway, trying to estimate when the next light was so I knew when to stop.
Yeah.
So I would peer out the window to see as much as I could see.
Yeah.
And he was in the front of the car when I took off, but I didn't hurt him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He just got shoved off, I guess.
I thought I
Unfortunately is what I said.
unfortunately.
I
Yeah.
would have if I could have.
Yeah.
But I stopped at the next light, got out, shut the hood, and floored it, and he
Mm.
never caught up. So that was one Looney Tune, totally irrational.
Mhm.
Had loaded a gun on me and
Oh
took
my
an umbrella
God.
and beat up my head.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was serious. And then another one wasn't quite as dramatic. Basically having to escape.
Yeah.
We had just moved into a brand new huge house, and I arranged for movers to show up right after he left for work. It was a snow day in January, I remember, and the girls didn't have any school. And the moving vans arrived right after he left.
Mhm.
I got the whole house packed up, everything I owned, and out of there by 4:30.
Interesting.
It's just one story after another.
I know. So how, in fact, this is not, it's not part of our questions, but how are you able to live through that and still be alive today?
Well, you have to nurse yourself. I had to just supply myself with what I didn't get from my so-called mother.
Mm.
And my father was largely an absentee father because he was a pilot in the Air Force. He was in World War II and the Korean War. In fact, I never even saw him till I was 10 months old, I was told. You have to use an awful lot of self-care, and when you think you're the worst person on the face of the earth, it's hard to do.
That's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
And like as we grow into adults, and I
Mhm.
try to tell myself that, whenever I meet people and they're sort of like, you're toxic in my life, I try to let them, like, put them aside, because I'm like, I could have childhood traumas, which I did. And I love what she said, self-care, because that's what I'm doing now. And it's really helping me
Good.
heal beautifully. And now it's like my inner child is so alive. I'm an
Oh,
adult, but my inner child is so alive, because what
yeah.
you just said is so true. I didn't even know it, but like I was actually practicing self-care and I was just healing. So
Yeah.
now it's just like, it's just a beautiful journey with myself. And now now I'm so conscious that I do not want to have adulthood traumas. So how do you avoid, I don't know, it's not a thing people talk about, but I feel like it's something I've created because I do see signs like that. For example, like even in relationship, like I meet a guy from time to time, and when they come into my life, I detach myself from my emotions, and I start to look with my, with my head, and see the person for who the person is. And sometimes I see patterns that if I endure and I continue with this person would affect me greatly in the future.
Right.
And I know that if I continue like this, I'm gonna have traumas, adulthood traumas or adult traumas, let me put it that way. That's how I recognize it and go like, no, I'm dealing with my childhood traumas and all the things that I went through in my childhood, and I'm healing from it. I'm not going to let somebody add on to that. Then my life will become a whole cycle of healing. So what I do is that in my adulthood, how I avoid it is I just detach myself from people who are not adding value to my life and who want me to be another person than myself.
Yes, you need to set up boundaries.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. And
Very
it's
hard to do.
not to compromise them after you set them up.
Mm.
But if anything doesn't feel right,
Yes.
if you have like a question in your mind about what in the world did that mean? Or why did he do this? Or anything that doesn't feel comfortable.
Yes.
Just run.
Just run.
Yep.
Thank you, Mama.
Go the opposite direction.
Yeah. Yes.
Because what they do is they try to hook you along. And I mean, they start out and everything is terrific. And then all of a sudden, there are these little chips and dents in the work of art,
That's so true.
And
That's so true.
you can't put blinders on.
I get what you're saying, 100%, because what they do is it's like they find a way to get into your heart. They find a way to get into your life by doing all these sweet things and saying all these nice things. And once they're able to get that, then the veil comes off and they start,
then the
it's
criticism
crazy.
comes. And why can't you do this? And why did you do that? And it's a completely different world.
It is. And it's like, and you start to question yourself. It's like, okay, is it that he's become something, or is it me that has bought this? It's just crazy. And this applies to not just, romantic relationships, but even in friendships, in some family relationships. And the thing we have to put above it all is like, you have to put yourself above everybody else and love yourself. Because fun fact is that we spend more time with ourselves than anybody spends with us. So if you can find ways to love yourself and put yourself first, honestly speaking, you're going to have like multiple traumas and walking through this life, attaching yourself to the worst of the worst and just anybody that comes into your life. Like I always say to myself that I don't mind being alone. I will never settle. They said never say never, but I don't think I will settle if I don't have what I want, because truth be told, I enjoy my own company. It's ridiculous. Like I could literally go out with myself. I can remember just a couple of weeks ago, I went to a karaoke bar and they have a baby, how do you call this thing? Oh, I keep forgetting the name, but it's like a game, right? They have a game, and then the game requires two people. It requires that two people play the game. But unfortunately, I went. Fortunately, I went there with myself, just alone. So I just went to somebody, a random stranger, and I asked the stranger, "Oh, can you play, baby punk? I can't remember, but can you play with me?" And he was just snobbish about it and was just like, no. And guess what? I even have a video on my phone. I played alone by myself and I was laughing, and I was playing as two people, and I'll run to the other side of the of the game and the other side, and I just had so much fun. When I was leaving the bar, because it's quite a big bar, right? One of the security was like, he really loved watching me play the game alone. And it was just really nice, So I've dealt with a lot. I've dealt with my demons and everything. So now it's just like I've crossed that path of just loving my own company. So if I'm not able to get somebody that's going to bring me joy or add value to my life, it's just like, you know what, just go. And that's where I really want everybody to reach, is to get to the point where you enjoy your own company, that you don't even mind living in the world alone. And that's, and also I also love how complex our brain is. So the human body, I feel like we're so complex that there's so many parts of us that if you're able to tap into those parts of you, you would realize that you're not just one entity, but there's so much to you that requires connection, that requires you building connection with it, that you, instead of you looking to build connection outside of yourself, you rather look to build connection within yourself. And that's so, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why people preach about self-love, but most people do not actually get the meaning or the value of self-love. Yeah. So what advice will you give to anyone healing from their trauma right now? Any trauma?
If it started in your childhood, you'll always have some damage from it because it physically changes your brain, because we're born wanting to attach. And if we don't have a mother that wants to attach, it's bound to have some negative effect. So just be patient with yourself. You're not going to be able to move the earth, so you can take care of yourself. You can try to have a little pleasure every day. You can be thankful for what you have and give what you can, and, you know, be friends until you're not friends, and then learn your lesson and move on from that.
Be friends with who in particular? Be friends with yourself, or be friends with, like, with your traumas?
Both, yeah.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
you have to look at the trauma for what it is and accept it. You didn't dream it up, so it's pretty real.
Yeah, that's true. So we've come to the end of the session, but before you go, can you share any life lesson you live by?
I'm not a good one to ask. I'm trying
I
really
know you're
hard.
trying. But there's, I
Really
mean,
hard.
there's something you live by that, you know, has got to you up this morning to, you know, even be recording with me today. You could have just ghosted, you could have procrastinated, but you're here right now. So
No.
there's something within you that you live by that keeps you going. Because from what you've told me, your stories, your experiences is mind blowing. I couldn't even talk much. I'm a talkative, but I couldn't talk much because, like, I was blown away, you know. So
Well,
I'm really curious as to, like, what keeps you going.
I always try to do what I say I'm going to do.
Yes.
I don't like people who say things and don't really mean them. So I think words can really hurt if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So don't say anything you don't mean, because other people are on the receiving end.
That's true.
Try to do what I tell people I'm going to do.
Integrity.
Yeah.
So
Just don't want to be known as somebody who doesn't show up.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So we've come to the end of the session. And before I leave, I would go over the top rules for today by Steve Jobs. According to Steve Jobs, don't live a limited life. Don't let society limit you. And also, don't do it for money. Make sure you do things you're passionate about. Because if you do it for the money, it's easy for you to lose motivation. It's easy for you to give up, and it's easy for you to get frustrated, and also it's easy for you to lose that money. So make sure you do it because you love it. And when you love something you do, you always find ways to do it, and it's hard for you to give up. I'm a living proof. So kindly leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you all so much, BSG Fighters, for listening to Being Sharon Gibson's podcast. I love you as much as you love yourself. Until next time, bye. Bye, Leah.
Bye.
How